Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Selby series. Selby is one of 11 subdivisions of the county of North Yorkshire. It's made up of 74 civil parishes, a lot of which are very small. Which one are we in this week? Howdy everybody, welcome back to Selby. There's a bit of rain in the air this morning. It's a refreshing change because just lately it's been quite warm and I'm still dressed as if the sun's going to come out. But to be fair, it's nice and cool, and it means it gives me a nice sort of cool walk around this place. This is a big old place, this. It's going to take me at least 2 hours to walk around it. It's 3 miles from the very northern tip of it to the very southern tip of it. This is Barlby with Osgodby. This Selby episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Barlby with Osgodby is situated due east of Selby, and it comprises the villages of Barlby and Osgodby, as the name might suggest. Barlby sits aside the A19, whilst Osgodby is on the A63. The parish is bordered to the west by the River Ouse, quite the major landmark in fact, because the river and its crossings were all very historically important to local industry. Barlby is the much larger of the two villages, and at one time it used to be 2 separate settlements itself, named Barlby Hilltop and Barlby Bridge. Modern housing developments have somewhat blurred the line between the two. Much of the almost 5,000 population live in Barlby Hilltop, which has seen a vast and ever-growing swathe of brand new houses in recent times. From north to south, Barlby measures some 3 miles. It's not a small place now, and let's not forget Osgodby, which is almost a completely different animal. Industrially, Barlby is famous for flour mills. On the road between Barlby Hilltop and Barlby Bridge, there stands a huge mill once owned by the Rank Hovis Company. Barlby Bridge has some references to the industrial past. As we journey around, we'll learn more about what the word Olympia means to this part of Selby. There's no way I could cover all of this one, it's just way too big. Here's what I did cover though. Welcome to Barlby, one of the largest settlements in the district of Selby. Our start point is Highfield View, where we come across one of the many parish notice boards. With that out of the way nice and early, we can concentrate on this walk, almost 8 kilometres in length, which incorporates Osgodby and much of, but not all of, Barlby. Our route takes us up Old School Lane, and as the name might suggest, there is indeed an old school up here. Barlby's first known schoolhouse was built in 1845, quite late in truth. I doubt very much this building is that 1845 school, but my research did tell me an old school of some description was used as a church hall. Likely this, as the church isn't far away. So Barlby is something of a walker's paradise. There are plenty of public footpaths out here, including one that runs all the way down the side of the River Ouse, and that's going to be forming part of this route around Barlby. I'm not walking down all of it because it would be pointless really, because if I did that you wouldn't see any of the village, would you? Speaking of which, it's a nice little residential street which I'm about to turn right onto. Most of Barlby's oldest houses stand in the centre of York Road. The largest ones include this early 19th century manor house and one named The Grove, a stuccoed villa which includes a dovecote. One thing I noticed quite quickly about Barlby was how local services and amenities seem to be very spread out. Here, for example, we have a pharmacy, almost all on its lonesome. Now, given Barlby's size and its population, a lot of it is residential. I can't touch every street, of course, because that would be daft for me to try and touch every street. I'd be here all day. I think I've chosen a decent enough route through the residential areas though, so hopefully it catches the essence of it. Now we're on Sycamore Road and we're at a local shop. This is known as Barlby Village Stores. For a place this size, it's somewhat surprising that there's not many shops. Mind you, education-wise, Barlby has it nailed on. Here we have Barlby High School, a mixed secondary school which opened in 1960. Previously a community school administered by North Yorkshire County Council, in 2017 Barlby High School converted to academy status and is now sponsored by the Hope Sentamu Learning Trust. This next thing was handy. It saved me researching the buses you need out here. The bus is the number 415. I believe you can also get the 416 service to Barlby as well. Now, a long time ago in Basset Law, we covered a place called Mattersea. You might remember in that village there was a little stretch of road which I didn't know at the time was the shortest bit of dual carriageway in Nottinghamshire. I wonder if this is the shortest bit of dual carriageway in North Yorkshire. Could be. Now we're in the very far north of the village, and here on Riverside Avenue we can see just how many new builds have gone up in recent times. Some of these still aren't marked on maps. There's a small play area up here, although Barlby does have a much bigger park than this further along the route. There are 4 parks in the parish in total. Now we pick up a footpath which takes us to the bank of the River Ouse, although as you'll see in a few moments, seeing the river from here is not exactly easy. So it looks like we're leaving civilization here, but we're only doing this for a short way. I'm only walking down the bank of the River Ouse for a short little time before coming back into Barlby a little further to the south. The river is just down there. Let's go and have a look at it this morning. You can see how much land there is between the river and the houses here. This is a good time to mention flooding, and I'm pleased to say that this won't be a negative mention. Like other settlements in the Vale of York, the village has historically been vulnerable to flooding and was badly hit in November 2000, which damaged the local electrical substation. Since then, the existing flood defences were improved as part of an £80 million scheme that was completed in 2008. Barlby is now categorised as being a low flood risk. That path you've just seen takes us to Barlby Ponds, which are a series of water features along what's known as the Stockdale Way. Now, I've no idea who he was, but the route is named after Eric Stockdale. There's also a bench along here in memory of another Barlby local, this time Councillor Ted Wright and his wife Vera. You never know where you're going to see these things. Now, it doesn't matter particularly that we didn't get a view of the Ouse there, because a little later we will be getting a view of the Ouse from a major local landmark. But of course, I've got to finish this route first. I'm about halfway around now, so let's keep plodding. Following the Stockdale Way, you'll eventually reach Landing Lane, where there's a rather empty board for the Barlby Ponds. Right next to this is a sign for the Stockdale Way. There are 3 of these in total, purchased and erected by the Parish Council in 2014. Now, let's get back to civilization. As we round the bend towards the manor house again, we come across Barlby's former pinfold, which still stands in almost perfect condition. It was restored in 1984 according to this plaque. Next to this we have the Grade 2 listed Barlby Hall, which dates from the mid-18th century. Osgodby has a hall as well, on the road out towards South Duffield. So it might be somewhat surprising to you to learn that a place this size has a really small church. Let's go and find it. It's up here. I guess though, Barlby was never meant to be this big. I think I can explain that. Once upon a time, Barlby's church was a chapel of ease, thanks to the village being within the ancient parish of Hemmingborough. Barlby is now bigger than Hemmingborough. It used to be smaller than what it is today as well, this church. It was enlarged in 1895, something which included a full restoration. Check out these gates. These act as a war memorial. Made of brick, the church is accessed by narrow lanes. It consists of a chancel with a north vestry, a nave and a west porch. It was rebuilt in 1779 and 1780 to replace an earlier ruined chapel. One of its oldest parts, therefore, is its bell, dating from 1704, made by Samuel Smith of York. One can only assume this was part of the original chapel. So I guess this is what you would call Barlby's centre, I guess. Obviously the church just down that lane over there. We've got a pub and a fish and chip shop over here. This is the new inn, by the way. Looking very nice. 100% still open as well. It's amazing how many pubs like that aren't open these days. There's Barlby's fish shop, chip shop, Barlby Fisheries, and over there there's something called the Barlby Community Hub. In the 1800s there were inns in Barlby known as the Plough and the Bay Horse. In 1826 the latter was replaced by the Boot and Shoe, which had become the new inn by 1872. The Community Hub is primarily a library, but available for community use outside of library hours, subject to conditions and availability. Regular groups that meet here include a monthly book club. Apart from the gates of the church, we haven't seen a proper war memorial here. Outside the Community Hub, there's some nice planters commemorating VJ Day. Next, after turning south, we pass Barlby Primary School. This has been here since 1913, although it's likely been greatly modified since then. Keep in mind, Barlby Bridge has a school of its own. And just before we see yet more residential areas, we hit Barlby Park, which is directly opposite the school. Locally, this park is known as Wayne Homes. So now it's another little residential area with a bit of green space interspersed between the houses, but we're heading for one of Barlby's biggest open green spaces next. After walking through the aptly named Woodland View, we're at the Barlby Woodland and Wildflower Meadow, which is part of the 50 acres of land within the parish designated as a natural conservation area. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a massive area of meadow and a woodland which adjoins the A19. Again, there's footpaths across it and through it. I tell you, walking here is a joy. It's not so much a joy when you attempt to cross the A19, however. That's what we're about to do though. This stretch of the A19 forms part of the Selby Eastern Bypass. Okay, it's the hardest part of the route now. I need to follow this footpath across this field and it takes me into Osgodby, which is over there. And then to get back to Barlby later, I'll be crossing a bridge. Yes, this really is a public footpath, although it doesn't look like one, does it? Beware if you attempt to walk along this one, folks. Underfoot it's quite uneven. It is a field after all. Osgodby eventually appears at the end of a tree-lined section of the path. We've hit the A63 Hull Road. Osgodby's name is from the Old Norse personal name Asgo. This literally then is Asgo's farm. Osgodby has much more of a village-like feel than Barlby. This is the Village Institute on Cliff Road, a registered charity which has been supporting the community since 1930. This building is the meeting place for regular classes and for the local history group. On the wall there's this rather unusual feature, a meter counting how much has been raised for its restoration. Now, if you don't fancy the pub in Barlby, you can always come to the one in Osgodby. It's called the Wadkin Arms, and it's right there. As pubs go, in the 1750s and 1760s, a single alehouse was licensed in Osgodby. An inn named the Half Moon was later recorded in 1823, but now only the Wadkin Arms exists. Now, if you were expecting to see the park and the pond in Osgodby, I will admit I completely missed them on the map. One thing I didn't was the family-run Selby Garden Centre on the A63. The garden centre has a small coffee shop too. Right next door we've got a raft of businesses including a hair salon and an Indian takeaway, and around the back is Moorside Building Supplies. Okay, not far to go now until we're back in Barlby. There's one major landmark still to catch here in Osgodby though, and that is the Methodist Church, Barlby and Osgodby Methodist Church. Make that a couple of landmarks because I know how much the allotment fans out there have missed seeing these of late. Osgodby has some right on the edge of the village. Next we need to cross this footbridge which will take us back into Barlby. From the bridge we can get a look at Barlby roundabout, where the A19 meets the A63. This is one of a series of roundabouts along the Selby Eastern Bypass. To the north of this one, the A19 meets the A163 at what used to be a notorious staggered junction. From the bridge, if you look towards that roundabout, you'll see Turner's, an accident repair business established in 1969. Turner's are a trusted partner for many of the UK's major car insurance companies. And after an hour and 50 minutes, we're back to where we began, right next to the northern extremity of the woodlands we walked through earlier. 2 hours wasn't a bad guess. Okay, we've seen a lot in this one, but there is still yet more. Gonna hop into the car now and head down towards Selby, where there's another part of Barlby we haven't yet touched. So this is Barlby Bridge. It's the A19, mainly speaking, and it runs towards Selby. In fact, you might even be able to see Selby Abbey right there. So let's have a walk around this place. It's not very big. It's mainly terraced housing with a few landmarks interspersed, like for example the Olympia pub. And notably, where it meets Selby, there's perhaps the biggest landmark that we still need to talk about. The Olympia Hotel holds some clues to this area's industry. It stands at the far western end of what's known as Barlby Bank, and it takes its name from the Olympia Mills. Its sign shows seed crushing machinery. That's because Barlby Bank, the part of Barlby between Barlby Hilltop and Barlby Bridge, used to be lined with mills. The Olympia Mills were a big deal here. They were owned by the Olympia Oil and Cake Mills Company, and they dominated the banks of the River Ouse. By the mid-19th century, there were other industries on Barlby Bank, including several agricultural and timber merchants, a few mariners, some railway and toll bridge employees, and a flax spinner. Steam flour millers arrived in 1905, and their mills were eventually taken over by Joseph Rank Limited in 1967. As such, easily the largest building still standing on Barlby Bank is the Rank Hovis Mill. Food companies seem to have been attracted to this area ever since. Fletcher's Sauce Company was established at Barlby in 1920 and became part of Smedley HP Foods Limited. The Yorkshire Sugar Company Limited, later part of the British Sugar Corporation, bought 69 acres here in 1927 on a site that stretched from the Ouse Bank to the railway. These days, Greencore, a major name in convenience foods, have a pickle factory at Barlby Bank. A lot of the Olympia buildings have now disappeared. So let's have a walk through the Barlby Bridge area towards Selby. It's safe to assume a lot of these properties were built as a result of the industrial activity at Barlby Bank. Barlby Bridge has its own shops and a Chinese takeaway, amongst other things. Situated to the south and east of these terraced properties is a football club, Selby Olympia, again taking the Olympia name. Here's Barlby Bridge School, which opened in 1925 with accommodation for 290 pupils. Numbers have since dwindled here. The attendance was just 95 in 1973. So where Barlby meets Selby, we have Barlby Bridge over the River Ouse. Here it is. It's another swing bridge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over it to the other side and we'll take a quick look into Selby, although that will get its own episode in time, and then we'll walk back across it and talk a bit more about it. There's also a railway bridge over there that moves too. So this is Selby Swing Bridge, or if you will, Selby Toll Bridge. It's one of 3 swing bridges over the Ouse. Originally built between 1791 and 1793 and made of timber, it replaced a ferry over the river. This is Ousegate on the Selby side. Give it a few episodes, we might well be stood here again soon. This is literally a stone's throw away from the humongous Selby Abbey. The bridge once provided a connection between the west and east riding of Yorkshire. That was until local government reorganisation put both sides of the river in modern-day North Yorkshire. Fun fact, the bridge was believed to be the first in the world to use ball bearings, and until it was rebuilt in the 1970s, it was the oldest surviving timber bridge in the UK. Traffic queuing for the tolls used to create a bottleneck throughout Selby. In September 1991, Selby Council and North Yorkshire County Council bought the bridge and abolished the tolls. You might have been able to hear in the background, every time a car goes over the bridge it makes that noise. It's because it's where the bridge joins the road here. Okay, we're going to walk down the side of the Ouse and towards the railway bridge as well. The railway you see here is the line from Selby to Hull, and it was opened in 1840 with a lifting bridge over the Ouse. It was replaced in 1891 by a swing bridge, and that's this structure you can see before you. An iconic Victorian structure, this is located just to the north of Selby railway station. The River Ouse here is navigable, which means both bridges are still in regular use. The railway bridge has 4 fixed spans and a movable span of approximately 40 metres that rotates through 90 degrees to lie parallel with the north bank of the river. Now these 2 bridges aren't the only 2 I could have spoken about here in Barlby. There is a third one, however it's very difficult to get to because I can't stop on the bridge or under the bridge or anything like that. It's the one that takes the A63 over the River Ouse. That's going to be the first picture in today's picture bit. And that, as they say, is that's Barlby with Osgodby. It's a very big place, this, isn't it? Huge, in fact, huge. And I know full well I haven't covered all of it. You can't really with a place like this, you just have to do the best you can. And I think a 2-hour walk and then a little section about Barlby Bridge probably ticks all the boxes. It's time for me to move on to my next one here in Selby. I have actually got to go through Selby now, through the town itself, to get to my next one. Selby will get an episode itself. It's a parish town, yeah, that one will be coming your way soon. I can't wait to have a look at the Selby Abbey, which you can see from here. It looks fantastic. So hopefully that's going to be a good part of that episode. You might have to wait a long time for that one though, because I'm thinking that's probably going to have to be the last one in the series, the 74th and last here in Selby. Anyway, time for me to stop rambling and move on to my next one. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and this has been the parish of Barlby with Osgodby, and I'm out.